No. Stop. You're letting yourself down.
Bevan, what's wrong with... look, frogs.
Is that what you ate through your glorious triathlon career?
It is what I ate through my glorious triathlon career. I actually used to use candy a lot on run training. Instead of gels, I'd just eat candy.
You realise your career's finished. What's your excuse now?
It's good, Bevan. It tastes good.
Well, on today's show, we are focusing on nutrition, and we did get to speak to a couple of the leading male athletes about what they do during their race day nutrition, and also some hydration tips as well.
Yeah, and I went to the press conference, and we're going to show a couple of the highlights from that. And what else do we got? Oh, the contest. Give me my candy back. And we're going to introduce our contest where you can win a
4i dual-sided power meter worth around about $1,000 US.
And we're going to tell you how you can win that at the end of the show, so stay tuned. Welcome to the 4th episode of Fitter and Feisty Kona Daily News Show, powered by Wahoo. I'm Sarah Gross from Live Feisty Media.
I'm Bevan McKinley from Fitter Coaching.
And today I got to go to the press conference, actually, and I saw a couple people who I haven't seen all week, who actually seemed really, really prepared. So one of them is Anne Haug. She's a German athlete who was an Olympian, came 11th in the Olympic Games, I think, in 2012. And she came here last year kind of as a bit of a dark horse, even though, I mean, obviously we knew she was a phenomenal bike and runner. And she managed to get onto the podium last year.
Yeah, and we were talking before we recorded today, and you mentioned that a lot of Anne Haug's success came down to the training camp that you led her through with Aaron Smith. So it's not something that you wanted to tell the viewers, but I thought I'd give you the opportunity.
Yeah, because that's fairly accurate to our conversation.
In her third place finish last year, I don't think she mentioned you.
She didn't mention me?
No, yeah.
At that special training camp?
No, but it was wonderful that you went to the press conference to catch up with her, and so here's Anne Haug's thoughts on Kona this year.
Yeah, Ironman Copenhagen, I have to do to validate my sport, and this was the very latest I could qualify for here. So I went into the race having 4 weeks of running in my legs, so I was completely unsure if I can run a marathon in one piece or if I have to stop after a half marathon and walk a bit. So it was a completely surprise, and yeah, had a very nice experience, obviously, to boost my confidence a bit for this race here.
The confidence is key. I mean, you've got the podium from last year. You had Ironman Copenhagen. I mean, that just puts everything onto another level in terms of the mindset going into Saturday.
Yeah, not really. I mean, you can't compare Ironman Copenhagen, where you do pretty much the whole race on your own and you can pace yourself on your own. So a World Championship race is always a different one, especially under these conditions with this depth of good competitors. So yeah. I mean, every race starts from zero and you don't get a head start just because you have a good race before. So, yeah, everyone has to put out a good race, and we will see who will be the best on Saturday.
Bevan, right after the press conference, we actually talked to Anne Haug for the Iron Women podcast. Yeah. And she seemed, I like to think that I'm able to predict who's going to do well based on how relaxed they seem.
Okay.
I don't know if that's actually a forte of mine, but I like to think it is. It's a special gift.
It's a gift.
Yes, and so I'm going to name Anne Haug as someone who, she looks good.
Yep. She looked healthy, you said.
Yes.
And fresh? You described her like...
She had good pallor.
Yeah.
But sometimes people look like the heat is killing them.
Totally.
Or they look like they're too lean, or they've been trying too hard, or they're not quite recovered. Yeah.
And they can't fake it.
And she looks great.
Okay. Well, we talked to Daniela in one of our earlier episodes, but we really wanted to talk to Lucy as well. So we went to the press conference and we got Lucy's thoughts on the upcoming race day.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously I've been a swimmer since I was 8 years old, so it's kind of in my DNA, but I'm now a biker and runner as well, and although I still want to swim at the highest level, I'm now a full-round triathlete.
Well, you've shown that with back-to-back wins at the Ironman African Championship in Nelson Mandela Bay and some sub-3 marathons.
Yeah, I've definitely been working on my run this year, and I kind of spent the whole winter just running and not doing a lot else, and I think we're starting to see the results of that this season, and yeah, I'm hoping I'll be able to put down another sub-3 on Saturday, so yeah, fingers crossed for that.
The Ironman World Championship in Nice, it was 5th if I'm mistaken. What did that do to the thought processes with the final tuning coming into Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a born competitor. I don't come to races to not fight for the win. So for me, Nice was a bit of a disappointment, but it was probably everything I needed. I'd done a huge training block leading into Nice, and I was getting quite tired, and I probably easily could have put my foot off the gas after Nice and had a little rest before this. But from the day after Nice, I got on the turbo, the fire was burning in my belly for Kona, and I've worked really, really hard for this race. So yeah, I'm really excited to come here and race in my best shape possible, and yeah, hopefully put down a great performance.
I think it's really interesting where Paul Quay asks Lucy about being a swimmer, and she's really quick to correct him and remind him that she was, but she's now a complete triathlete and has been for a number of years now.
Yeah, absolutely. I like how she responded to that and how she responded so definitively. I'm ready to, I've been working on my running, I'm ready to run fast.
I also think she really backs her biking because, you don't just become a fast swimmer to immediately concede that lead on the bike. She's out the front of most races for a considerable period of time. Now, I actually don't know whether that annoys Daniela or not, and whether this year Daniela will try to correct that imbalance really early on. But you can see that after 70.3 Worlds, Lucy's, as she mentioned, the fire in her belly's there, and she's back training straight away. And there was disappointment at 70.3 Worlds, but she's here to put her mark on the race.
Absolutely. And someone else who had fire in their belly, Jan Frodeno.
Yeah.
I mean, he almost seemed kind of agitated there in a good way, like in that tiger being held back by the chain, can you imagine that image, ready to go?
Well, you know how we've managed to get interviews with basically all the main players. I'm almost quite glad I didn't get an opportunity to speak to him one-on-one, because he's here for business, and I don't think he wants to suffer any fools, and I'd be a bit scared I'd ask him a silly question.
Right.
But at the press conference, Paul Kay did get some words with Jan Frodeno.
Hello, professional athletes all said that they would rather have had you sitting there than not sitting there. They would rather have raced you.
I wasn't here, so I'll take your word for it. But I recently looked back, and the only running post I had last year was an underwater running shot somewhere out near the coffee boat. It was an interesting year, and obviously a hard year, having been around the sport for a while. Having to sit on the sidelines and watching a race that made history. It's definitely not my favorite way to spend the day, but I'm here for it, probably.
Due to the injury, you actually got to mix up sort of your season just a little bit. You managed to actually spend an actual winter over the December instead of being in Australia. So family time, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after having chased the end of summer for about 17 years, it was the first time to have a winter, and it really is unique what it does to you in terms of the seasonality, and not to be too hippie about it, but it really does make you appreciate the sun, which is nice coming here, and really realizing there's going to be plenty of it.
Looking at the field, it is an exceptional field. We had a record-breaking year last year, but sometimes with such a deep field, it becomes a very strategic race.
That could well be. I mean, it always is, and the beauty about Ironman is that all the predictions come in during the week, and who's done what, and what data is where, and how's the wind going to be. And really, I think the most fascinating thing for all of us athletes is also to just finally get to that start line and see how it does unfold after all the predictions. So I think it will be, like the guys have said, a very, very good race to watch.
So Jan mentions how it's going to be a really, really interesting race, and we've spoken all week about swim, bike and run and how that matters, but really it's the person who's going to get their nutrition right on the day. And for those people that are still wanting to go for the frogs, I'm not sure that's really going to help them. We caught up with a couple of athletes to talk about nutrition. Matt Russell, you got a soft spot for Matt?
Matt, I have a soft spot for Matt's story.
Yeah.
I don't know Matt very well, but after, he went through the window of a van, during the race 2 years ago here. He almost died.
Yeah.
And had to be, wasn't he out in the helicopter?
I'm not sure to what extent they had to get the emergency services.
It was
chronic. And
it was very serious.
When I was talking to him at the pool, the scar is still very pronounced across the top of the shoulder and down through the neck. So, like anything, he mentions outside of our interview the fact that it's just a blessing that he's actually here on the start line.
Yeah, and then last year he came back and finished sixth.
And I said to him at the time in my chat with him on the side of the pool, I was very happy for his sixth place because Braden Curry, who I coached, was 50 seconds in front of him or something like that. So I don't know if that was a nice thing to say or not, but we did talk about his nutrition strategy. So here's Matt Russell. For Ironman, do you have a particular nutrition plan that you actually go to, and does it change the hot races from cool races?
Actually, it does change a little bit from hot races to cool races. So on the bike, I have 2 bottles, and it's of Infinite Nutrition, and it's a custom blend. Yep. So in a cooler race, like Ironman Mixed Classic, especially in the morning, I'll have a little less sodium in there.
Yep.
And for this, for Kona, I'll have a little bit more sodium, because I know my sweat rate.
Yep.
And I just have 2 bottles, and I don't need to stop special needs or anything like that. And it's a concentrated bottle.
Yep.
About 900 calories in each bottle. Okay. So after I finish the first bottle about halfway through, then I'll grab the other bottle. Yep. And yeah, it seems to work out pretty well for me.
So you're not relying on aid stations in Kona much at all, and I know that with the Infinite brand, they can actually tailor it to your particular needs, both from a sodium perspective, electrolyte perspective, but also that the calorie.
You have the calories, the flavor. What else? How many aminos, the protein. So a little bit of everything, which is great. And yeah, I feel like I have that dialed in. And at the aid stations, the only thing I really grab is water.
Okay. So, wow, awesome. Yeah. Okay, so
keep it simple,
completely self-sufficient. So whoever wins in the men's and women's race on the weekend is going to be a really, really good fat burner. And one of the things that impacts whether you can burn your fat or not is the secretion of insulin. So that always happens when we have highly sugary foods. So we'll remove those from the conversation just for the moment. In your illustrious career,
Yes.
have you tried a few different methodologies?
Oh, definitely. I think every athlete goes through trying to figure out what kind of nutrition strategy works best for them.
Yep.
I definitely tried sometimes to periodize in some like really high fat,
Yep.
low carbohydrate times. And I found that if I went too far in that direction, I would feel terrible and weak.
Yep.
So I came back a little bit, introducing more carbs in and around training, or even just during the week having different times where you're trying to keep your, like you say, like your insulin levels low so that you're continuing to burn fat and teaching your body to burn fat.
Yep.
But then sometimes actually burning carbs and the carbs that you need. Because it is different for women a little bit than it is for men.
Oh, definitely. And in my coaching practice, women are treated differently to men nutritionally, and what you've just described is so true. In men, I find that the lower carbohydrate approach works a little bit more often than not, but it's a horses for courses. And Tim Reed, 70.3 world champion from a few years ago, he's tried many different approaches, and I caught up with Tim after the press conference to talk about it.
Started super high carb, like everyone probably early on in their sporting careers, and then went super low carb, and now I'm probably more in the middle. I do I find if I'm training the big hours, like the 30-hour weeks, I think my fat burning gets good just from the duration of the training. Like you're going for 5-6 hour rides. I don't eat crap, but I do eat, just try and eat some real food out there and keep myself from ending up in a bit of a slump or a hole. I certainly do probably 2 days a week where I keep it lower carb. The lighter days go lower carb, and the harder days I bring in a bit more carbs.
Okay.
That's where I see it.
You've also got a unique sweat profile for a small athlete. That's always been a real challenge for you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most cold races, I can be pretty conservative and wait for the run and back my run.
Yep.
And in Asia, I've always had to win by riding, in the top fastest ride or second fastest ride, and then hold on the run, because I lose 2.2 litres an hour.
Yep.
Which is, I did a simulation in Boulder before I came over, a 100k TT and then a 30k run, and I started at 66 and finished at 59 kilos. And I was drinking a lot. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Yep.
And the sodium losses are really high as well. So the goal for me on Saturday is to try and get to, close to 2 litres an hour in on the bike.
Wow.
And then I'll drink probably drink 2.5 litres on the run.
Yep.
So I'll still finish 3 kilos down,
Yep.
4 kilos down, but hopefully not 6-7 kilos down.
So Tim obviously has an exceptionally high sweat rate, and that's going to be a difficult thing for him to manage here in Kona. And so we're lucky enough to have Kevin from Nuun here to chat about hydration. Hearing Tim's story, is there something that you would suggest to the audience as to what he might do to offset some of that sweat and electrolyte loss?
Yeah, for sure. As I think about his scenario, high sweat rate during, a lot of athletes focus on during. But if you think about it, there's really the pre, the during, and the post. And the most important thing you could do, that for Tim to do, or anyone, is hydrate pre. So what I mean by that is that's the couple of days before, and that's taking in a lot of fluids, but with electrolytes, right up to an hour before the race. Because that preload's going to just make him, basically he's going to be ready. He's building up reserves.
So if I just salt my food and drink some extra water, does that work?
I think that's a brilliant idea, but I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Meaning, I wouldn't stop there.
Okay.
So the salt in the food, how about this? Here's a myth of hydration. The myth of hydration is this: water alone doesn't hydrate you. I know that sounds crazy, but so it actually comes back to your food. So when you're putting salt in your food, the water is connecting with the salt, and it's going to stay in you longer. So of course you don't just need Nuun to survive for life, but it can absolutely help you, because the extra electrolytes will allow that fluid to stay there, increase blood volume.
And there are electrolytes in the food, right?
There are, naturally.
But we will need more because we're doing an Ironman in the heat, right? Correct?
Also correct.
Okay.
Yes. And I like the fact that you're putting a little bit of salt on your food too.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Okay. Now the other thing is that there are a lot of hydration options out there on the race course, but you're a big believer in the fact that you need to separate the fuel and the electrolytes, so that you take them separately.
Yep. What someone we work closely with is Dr. Stacy Sims, and Stacy would say, right, your fluid then in the bottle, right, and your fuel in your pocket. The logic is this: the way you consume both fluids or fuel is different. Like, it goes down different pathways in your body. When you combine the two, causes havoc, likely intestinal distress. It's already getting inflammation from what we're putting our bodies through. So. That's key. So separate your hydration from your fuel. It's a key principle that Nuun lives by, which is why we're so high in electrolytes and really low in calories and sugar, because we want you to get your fuel from the food.
Okay.
Great. Well, thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Now, we told you that we had a prize to give away at the end.
We have a
of the
contest.
show. We have a contest, and we have a 4i dual-sided power meter to give away. How can people enter that prize?
Okay, so to enter the prize for the power meter, what you do is tag 3 friends who you think might be interested in this show in the comments below. And every 3 friends you tag is worth 1 entry. All right? And do that now. Do that on any of the remaining. Today's episode is episode 4. And then we have 2 more episodes after that. And then we will choose our winner. So make sure you enter, tag your friends, tell them how much you love us.
Okay, tomorrow's show is going to come out on race day, and it's going to include some talks with current men's champion Patrick Lund, Ironman Texas champion Patrick Milson, and we've got Jocelyn McCauley and Heather Jackson on the show.
See you then. Thanks for watching.